to order the City of Apache Junction Health and Human Services Commission meeting for February 26, 2024. Shall we begin with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Chairman Mitchell.
Present.
Commissioner Brennan.
Present.
Commissioner Moeller.
Present.
Commissioner Danford.
Present.
Commissioner Vice-Chairperson.
Present.
How do you say that?
Vozin.
Vozin. Thank you. And Commissioner Smithson.
Present.
All right, and Della has recused herself, so you have a quorum, your chair.
Thank you. Prior to doing any nominations, I believe we'll take a moment just for introductions.
Start.
Yep, I guess we'll just start at the end and work our way over.
My name is Angela Smithson, and I'm new to this commission, but excited to serve. I'm a teacher and have had a lot of experience with caregiving.
Penny Vozin, and I'm a master's prepared nurse supporting emergency services, and like her, just interested in serving.
Heather Moeller. I hadn't heard about this organization or this committee until I was up for like re-announcement or reassignment for Parks and Recreation. And this is an eye-opener, and I think it's awesome how many organizations we have within the city that I wasn't aware of.
And Jeffrey Mitchell was on the term for 3 years so far. Been a chair for 2, and was interested in it because I do a lot of volunteering for the nonprofits in the city, so I thought it was a natural fit, and the city council agreed. So glad to be here.
I'm Michael Brennan. I am a board-certified psychiatrist. That's entirely my fault. And I have been retired now for 2 years, and I have been on this commission for 2 years. And I am trying to give back to the community, and I believe that I have some expertise that might be beneficial.
Jeff Danford. Oh, retired. Just interested in doing what I can for my community.
Thank you.
So at this point, we would ask for nominations, but I wanted to real quickly mention, please do not nominate me as a chair or vice chair, because I also do need to make a statement of recusal. But since we haven't come to any business part of the meeting, I'll go ahead and guide us with the nominations. Can we have a motion to open nominations for the chairperson?
I call for a motion to open the nominations for the chairperson.
Can I have a second?
I second.
Roll call.
Who gave the second? I apologize. Thank you. I can't write that fast. All right, Commissioner Mitchell, Chairman Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Brennan,
Yes.
Commissioner Moeller,
Yes.
Commissioner Danford,
Yes.
Commissioner Vozin,
Yes.
Commissioner Smithson.
Yes.
Okay, nomination chair, the floor is open.
Okay, I now call for nominations for chairperson.
I nominate Michael Brennan.
I would like to not do that. I have a possible conflict in June with 2 grandchildren graduating, and I believe the meeting with the council is then, and so I don't know that I would be available. Oh, May?
May. So this commission will present their appropriation funding to council in May.
Okay, I'm tag teamed for that.
Okay. So you're okay if you were chair?
Yes.
Okay.
So you're not able, do I have to call for nominations for chairperson again?
The floor is still open.
Okay.
He's the first nomination, and what happens is I just write down who the nominations are, and then we will vote on them as the first down through the list.
Okay. Call for nominations for chairperson.
I nominate Jeff Danford.
I call for nominations for chairperson. And again, I call for nominations for chairperson. Can I have a motion to close nominations for chair?
Oh, go ahead.
I move to close the nominations for chair.
Okay. Can I have a second?
I second.
Roll call?
Chairman Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Brennan,
Yes.
Commissioner Moeller,
Yes.
Commissioner Danford,
Yes.
Commissioner Vozine,
Yes.
Commissioner Smithson.
Yes.
All right, nominations are closed. So what I'm going to do next is we'll do a vote. We'll start with the first name listed, which is Dr. Brennan. So those in favor of having Dr. Brennan be the chair, Mr. Mitchell will call for the vote. Motion and second.
Okay. So I now call for the motion to approve Dr. Brennan for chairperson.
So do I say that or do I just say second? I'm sorry.
Somebody makes a motion.
Yeah, someone makes a motion on Dr. Brennan.
So I motion. Nope.
I apologize. Abby, do you have the? Okay, so Chairman Mitchell said he calls for a motion to approve Dr. Brennan for chairperson. So someone will make a motion to approve the chair and a second. Apologies.
And so I say
I've
moved
to appoint.
to appoint Michael Brennan as chair.
Okay.
Can I have a second?
A second?
Okay.
Okay.
Roll call?
Chairman Mitchell,
No.
Commissioner Brennan. I'll come around to you last. Commissioner Mahler,
Yes.
Commissioner Danford,
Yes.
Commissioner Vozine,
No.
Commissioner Smithson.
Yes.
All right, motion is 3-2. Motion passes. Dr. Brennan is chair.
Okay.
And then we'll do the same thing for vice chair.
I'm now providing the gavel to the newly elected chairperson. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Can I have a motion to open the nominations for vice chairperson?
I-
Oh, go ahead.
I move we open the nominations for vice chairman.
I second. Sorry.
Okay.
Roll call?
Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Chair Brennan,
Yes.
Commissioner Moeller,
Yes.
Commissioner Danford,
Yes.
Commissioner Vozine,
Yes.
Commissioner Smithson.
Yes.
All right. Floor is open for nominations.
I nominate, oh, do I go? No? Do you have to say something? No? Okay. I nominate Jeff Danford for vice chair.
I call for nominations for vice chair.
I will nominate Heather Muller for vice chair.
I call for nominations for vice chair. And one last time, I call for nominations for vice chair. I don't think I have to ask for a second.
A motion to close nominations.
A motion to close the nominations for vice chair?
I motion we close nominations for vice chair.
Okay.
I second.
Okay. Now I call a motion to approve. No.
No.
We have to vote.
We're going to do roll call. It's all
Roll
right.
call.
It's all right. Commissioner Mitchell.
Yes.
All right, so this is on closing the nominations. Chair Brenner,
Um,
Brennan,
Yes.
Commissioner Moeller,
Yes.
Commissioner Danford.
Yes.
Commissioner Vozine,
Yes.
Commissioner Smithson.
Yes.
Okay, nominations are now closed.
I now call for a motion to approve.
So the first one was Danford
Right. For vice chair.
for vice chair.
I move to make the motion. Oh, no.
You're a second.
Oh, I'm second.
I would need a second. Okay.
Mhm.
Did you get that? You going along?
Roll
All right,
call.
so who made the motion to close, or who made the motion? The chair made the motion to approve.
Right.
Mueller made the second. Roll call. And I'm sorry, I'm out of, hold on a second here. Commissioner Mitchell?
No.
Chairman Brennan?
Yes.
Commissioner Mueller?
Yes.
Commissioner Danford?
Yes.
Commissioner Vozine?
Yes.
Commissioner Smithson?
Yes.
Okay, so vice chair is Mr. Danford. Okay, so you have a chair and a vice chair at this time.
Good. Okay.
And before proceeding to the next agenda item, I think this would be a good time for me to read that statement of recusal. So, my fellow members of the Health and Human Services Commission, staff, and the public, I need to disclose publicly that I do sit on the board for Begin Again Homes and serve in its capacity as a treasurer. The organization recently submitted an application to our city and our commission for funding. And although I'm an unpaid officer of the organization, I do feel I need to recuse myself from the selection process, the entire selection process for health and human services providers. So I do want to wish the board well in the upcoming recommendations to the council, as I will not be participating in those. I'm asking Chair and Vice Chair take over the meeting and handle the rest of the meetings in the selection process. And have a good night.
Well, thank you, sir.
Good.
Thank you.
For those of us that have known, Chairman Mitchell,
Okay.
and I'll try and remember the Rotary Club.
Yeah, if I can have you, if you'll give us just a moment. I'm going to have you sign the minutes right there.
Okay.
And then we'll see you in May or June. Okay.
Do I have a motion to accept and approve the regular meeting minutes of April 24th, 2023?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Roll call?
If you'll bear with me for just a moment, we've got new sheets. Okay, Commissioner Mueller.
Yes. Yes.
Is it
Yes. I was like, sorry.
Commissioner, Vice Chair Danford,
Yes.
Commissioner Vozine,
Yes.
Commissioner Smithson,
Yes.
and Chair Brennan.
Yes.
All right, motion passes on the minutes.
Okay. Next agenda item is public hearings.
Which we have none,
So
and we have no
seeing
old.
none or being given no indication that anyone present in the audience wishes to have that opportunity? Okay. Old business.
We have no old business at this time.
Great. Okay, new business.
Okay, so new business is presentation and discussion on the fiscal year 23-24 Q1 and Q2 services provided by those that did receive funding this year. So in the agenda packet, I just lost my screen. There were reports that were attached for Q1 and Q2 from all of the nonprofits. So what we had here was the AJCDC, Q1 and Q2. I'll just open these up. Horizon, AJ, Genesis, and other side. And we will start with if you don't mind, I'm going to start with Superstition Community Food Bank.
Okay.
So what I did was I looked at their Q1 and Q2 reports, looked at what the contract said that the services that they would be providing, and within their Q1 and Q2 reports, they provided information on their statistics. So the Superstition Community Food Bank, I would just like to highlight a few things that they had. In Q1, They serviced over 10,218 clients. They basically provide food. This is just the service that they provide. Households served, 3,636. The number of volunteer hours that they had was 4,821. And then their narrative addresses any outside funding that they get. They had listed that they had served food to 183 individuals with disabilities, 49 with mental illness. They also addressed every age group. The veterans, they served over 205. They served active duty. They served moms-to-be. They served children. So they cover the whole age range. They also addressed seniors that were served were 2,353. They had 3,048 children. New individuals served in Q1 was 1,114. In the first quarter, they spent $13,180 in food costs. They continue to work with churches, schools, organizations here in the community to host food drives and help replenish the food and the water in their warehouse. They've also been working to find more financial donors because they did not receive, in Q2 as they'll report, they did not receive as much food as they did the previous year because the cost of food and even bottled water has gone up. They had 375 volunteers work in Q1. They have seen, so identify any problems or concerns related to their activity. In Q1, they also mentioned that they're seeing an increase of homelessness, especially in their senior population, and senior citizens trying to keep up with the increase of medication, fuel, rent, lot rent, utilities, and extended family members moving in. Challenges in Q1, their food supply dwindled because the food rescue store partners have seen a decrease in the available product for donation. So again, they spent $13,180 in food costs, so subsidizing what they already had. And water donations were down compared to last year as well. Q2, their successes were, there was a slight increase, especially in the children 0 to 18 and seniors 60 plus and older. Studies, so they were able to service them. They also, in October, served 3,988 clients, then 4,115 in December, and I'm sorry, I think I've got October was 3,988, November was 4,115, and December was over 4,000. They had served 12,177 clients. There was an increase of 832 in the overall clients from the first quarter, and they also served 1,225 new clients in Q2. So within their report, they do list numbers. They've tried to break it down by zip code, but I do know that there is something with their software that doesn't quite give them the ability to pull out 85119 and 85120. So the reports that they get cover 85117, 1819, 20, and 78. But within 119 is the highest. So in 17 you get 38 people. In 118 you get 250. But in 85119 you get 2,398. And in 85120 you get over 4,500. So they're estimating for the total AJ zip code, it's over 7,000 residents. They had over 447 volunteers. They did do their 40th anniversary fundraising campaign. Now in April, they will all be coming to you to present what they're asking for this next year. So all the questions that you want to ask them right away. Just write them on down. When they come for their interviews, we try to keep it to their presentation and then your questions. Otherwise, you'll be here all night. So we try to keep it going. Within their Q1 and Q2 reports, if you're not able to get these online and open them up, let me know, and I will print them and get them mailed off to you. So that way you can look and see what services they are providing and what numbers they're seeing. Moving on to So in Q2, sorry, for the food bank, it says that they used the completion of all the food collected during the annual postal food drive. So we do a food drive here that's the postal, and you just leave your food in your mailbox or in a bag hanging on the mailbox. They'll pick it up. They went through everything that was donated. So they're spending more money on purchasing food, which I do know. I asked Eric, if you can give money, their buying power is better with cash. They're able to get a better discount if they have cash. So donations in cash are much appreciated. They were able, let's see, the year's food drive collected 15,000 pounds of food, and that was less than what they collected last year. With Genesis, we have some questions on their Q2, so we're working back and forth with them on that. In Q1, they basically we funded the navigator service for them over there. Their navigator is a 12-hour-a-week position. He helped 68 individuals, and his job is to help those continue to file for their DES supplements, their Social Security, any disability, housing location services, or refer them to an outside agency that can help them. Job search, help them with health, either finding a health provider or some health resources for them, helping them with appointments, VA benefits, like identification, like just getting an Arizona ID card, helping them get a birth record from the agency, Social Security cards, and other documentation. Genesis also was able to provide each visitor with at least 2 shirts and a pair of pants on a daily basis. They also provided weekly shower passes with hygiene products. They did see a record heat this last summer, which increased the consumption of bottled water. So they too were purchasing extra bottles of water to help with that. They also provide heat relief, and they focus on safety, and priority was given to individuals experiencing severe stress from the conditions.
You know, Jennifer, just a moment. I had some concerns about their capacity to deal with those individuals that suffer from heat exposure. They had revealed that their maximum capacity was 6 individuals. Have they been able to expand that, and did they reveal that or not?
They did not reveal that, but considering their location is still the same in size, I would say that Trinity is probably maxed at that.
Okay.
I do remember her saying that if she has some training on heat exhaustion, and they immediately call 911.
Okay. The second question is related to the navigator. I was very concerned because there was a lot of published data about the suspension of qualifications being scrutinized for access went into effect again, and many people were being removed. Some of them because they simply didn't respond because they were not at the address that they'd previously been, but others were unaware of the protocol. So were they engaged very heavily in that, or did they not reveal that?
They didn't reveal that as well. I know that that was one of the issues that they addressed during their presentation initially, was that people were unaware that their benefits were going to be expiring, that there was a, I don't know, how do you want to say, a timeout, and that they were helping them fill out that paperwork and resubmit it. I would assume that since that is part of his role, he would have caught that and would have helped those individuals. But again, if the individual doesn't show up for navigation services or for anything that Genesis provides, they may or may not have known.
Right. And I'm sorry, I interrupted you. So I don't know whether or not they had a larger number of individuals that they serviced this last year over the previous year.
They didn't. I don't think they broke it down.
Okay. That can be something that I would be interested in knowing.
That's Boys and Girls Club. So you're looking for the numbers that they served as far as those with needing benefits from DES, like the access?
Well, access, as well as the navigator was also supposed to be able to refer individuals that had ongoing medical problems that hadn't been attended to. And My thought was that maybe there was a relationship that they could make with Horizon because they're an FHCQ, Federal Health Qualified Clinic, that would facilitate that. So I don't know if they addressed that either.
They did not, but you have a very good point about Horizon Health and Wellness, and they did apply this year. They are looking to, I wasn't going to really talk about them this evening because you haven't had a chance to look at them, but they are basically becoming a food box resource. I think they're asking for a refrigerator. And so we will be discussing what this commission later on today, what this commission's purpose is and how, when it was originally formed back in 1980, what the purpose was and what the goal was. And it was to provide a direct service to the residents.
Okay.
There was discussion about paying rent or paying utility bills, or and they wanted to see a direct benefit. One of the organizations was CAHRA. It's still in existence here in Pinal County. When they were an applicant here, they actually assisted residents with replacing an air conditioning unit. And there was no issue with that. I think there's an issue with paying rent for a facility for a nonprofit or paying their power bills. Again, council wants to see more of a direct benefit to the residents of Apache Junction.
Right.
So, and I'm not gonna look up, so if you need to interrupt me, say hold. Because I was trying to highlight some of these to get through them pretty quickly for you.
That's fair.
Can I ask a
yes.
question? Do they outline the 68 individuals that were helped in Q1? Do they outline like the outcomes that came from their services?
They did not.
So, like, do we know if they found gainful employment or housing, or like what's the benefit?
They did not.
Yeah, that would be.
And that's why we don't have a Q2 report from them, is because we asked for better data.
And that's an excellent question. Absolutely. To see what outcomes are.
Yeah.
What your intervention is and was it beneficial?
Right. So I have had staff attend the Homeless Coalition meetings that is held, I think, once a month. Genesis Project still chairs the Apache Junction Homeless Coalition. They listed that there were 27 agencies that are in collaboration with them. Also, the city manager's office has an individual that will attend those meetings. And at this time, we just found it not beneficial for us to go because we didn't see anything progressing. But that doesn't mean that something wasn't progressing. She does report that there were over 2,126 Apache Junction residents were served. But again, I have a marker here that says, how was this verified? There were outside agencies represented. There were 7, and the Superstition Food Bank mentions that as well in their Q1 report, which is probably most of our nonprofits here in town. She mentioned that there were 64 people that benefited from the Navigator services. Again, the data wasn't broken down as to what those were for, and that they had served over 15,400 hot meals served in that quarter. And that's just Q1, and we're still waiting for more defined data for Q2.
Okay.
So part of that, as the Navigator, is also the gentleman that is partner with another person for Other Side Ministries. And what Other Side Ministry does is they help those that are like in a halfway house or are homeless. And he teaches, he's a professional chef, a culinary student. So he has taken his trade and he is teaching these individuals a skill set. During the first fiscal quarter, he reported that most of the individuals had experienced personal setbacks during their time and were unable to continue their stay with sober living facility, nor were they able to finish his program. He does have stipulations if you're going to do his program. Did you have a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you use some sort of code language. In other words, they relapsed.
If they don't have a job and if they don't make money, they don't get, and they can't make rent in their halfway house. So I have seen individuals kicked out because they just didn't make enough money. When they're in a halfway house, they have to have their own transportation to a job, back to that house. They have to be in by a certain hour. There are strict compliance issues for them. So if they don't make enough money, they're kicked out.
Oh, my goodness, okay. Thanks, that clarifies that, thank you.
So I don't know what those personal experiences were, but we have hired individuals for our company from a halfway house that were looking to be reintroduced into society, whatnot. Best employees we had. But again, if they don't make rent, if they don't get their own transportation back and forth, they're out. And so even if he asks the, I want to say like a resident advisor in the house to take him somewhere to a job, he charges him to get to and from.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's there are no breaks.
Yeah.
So I just don't know what those were. He did say that for students who saw their program through to completion and graduated, they're now employed in the culinary industry and work for different companies. I just don't have numbers on that.
Okay.
As to who what I do have is the number of students that he had was 5. Number of classes held were 6. The number of volunteer hours, because part of their rehab is also volunteering. So that was 288 hours. I just don't know of that 288 what was divided amongst his students. He had 1 graduate, and they catered 8 events.
So he has a success rate in that listing of 20%.
You did the number?
1 out of 5.
So you know, it's tough for those individuals to get back in. They don't have a car. You know, we don't have transportation out here. It's kind of hard. He said that the students and graduates supplied 2,860 meals to just over 2,000 people through their bi-monthly outreach through the Genesis Project. So he's a partnership there. For those that were unable to complete their work, they did come back to volunteer and finish their tuition and community service back at Genesis. And that's all I have for Other Side Ministries.
Okay.
Horizon originally asked for $7,000. They were awarded a lighting project. So that happened all at once. So we paid them all at once because it's not like their contractor's going to wait for an entire year to get paid. What was interesting was, so what they did was a lighting project for the community garden. And they did provide some numbers on the community garden about how much produce they generate in a year. What they reported to was that they had 3 categories of lighting had been purchased and installed. They had 12 large solar lights on lampposts that were purchased through that contractor and paid for with the grant, but 3 other solar-powered lampposts were purchased and then installed by Horizon's maintenance staff, and then Horizon also purchased a variety of solar-powered and electric lighting for the community garden area to help with other events in the garden and to give sufficient lighting so that the community garden club could work later in the day when the temperatures got cooler. So they did provide more lighting for that purpose. Haven't heard a whole lot about events in the garden, though. In summertime, it's super hot, so not a lot going on. They were responsible for the maintenance of those lampposts and the lights. They had 18 varied, so they had another additional 18 lights, solar lights put in to the garden area. So that they're done for this quarter. They're done. And then Apache Junction CDC. This is an organization that is all volunteer. They work with our code compliance division to help our seniors that have code cases before the judge, and they just don't have any money or resources to help them clean up their yard. So CDC will work with code and compliance on that. They do other things, such as there's the memorial bricks down at the focal point. The ink in that was fading out, so they're redoing those. They do Make a Difference Day, and they help with household hazardous waste disposal. and just other general community revitalization projects. In Q2, they were able to assist transport for citizens to the household hazardous waste event. So they went and picked up residents and helped them haul their stuff. They did make a difference day. 5 dumpsters were placed in various locations and staffed with a board member and volunteers. Flat Park mural project was advanced. Flat iron. I'm not sure what project that is.
Flatiron Park.
They have that back
They
wall,
do.
and then they added more paint
They-
to it, and they continued.
They're
on into
continuing,
the
aren't they?
section. Yeah.
Okay, I thought so, but I wasn't going to assume. So
Did they outline what they spent their monies for under
Did-
administration? Because I saw 25% of their funding went to projects and 32% went to administrative expenses. I felt like there was more going to administrative expenses than to projects. I was kind of curious
yes.
what they did with
Well, I wonder
that
if that was
funding.
the insurance.
So the
Is that what it
CDC.
is, insurance?
Yeah, the CDC really this is their maybe 3rd year applying for funds. They really did not have any technology. They didn't have any software. So this is what, if I can blow this up. Did I break it down? So this is their budget sheet. This was what is in their revenue, but then down here, I thought I had it. Here's where they listed the breakdown of their expenses. So their first year, I think they basically bought insurance, they bought equipment, I think they purchased a trailer, or at least got that up and running. They did have some administrative fees, but they're all non-paid, they're all volunteers. So basically it's just the computer and the antivirus software, the insurance that they pay for. They have, here's the rest, a mower, dumpster fees, probably the paint for the bricks. Certificates of appreciation, that's new. So, you get to recognize those that volunteered for you. Yes, sir.
No, I think I remember that they hadn't documented the donations that were made by, at that time, I think it was the facility that's right there on it. It's a facility that goes right in front of the park that it used to be what was it? True Blue. It isn't an Ace Hardware. It's like True Blue Hardware or something like that.
That's right across from,
Yeah, it
That's
used to be
across
True
from-
Value, but I think it's
True Value donates supplies to them
right.
and also helps them with the T-shirts,
right.
those bright yellow T-shirts.
Right, but they didn't list that last time as an offsetting, and I'm not trying to quibble with them because they really are pretty financially, frugal. But at the same time, it needed to be listed so that we knew exactly where that was coming from, and it seems that that's pretty magnanimous of that store to do that. But nonetheless, I don't know that they even listed it in here, did they?
The very bottom line, they've got a payment to Sparkle Screen Print for the T-shirts and what that cost. So the screen imprinting costs, but the T-shirts are mostly donated.
Okay.
Same with their equipment. They've had to purchase equipment. The CDC is a super small organization by 2 of our previous council members.
Right.
I think they have someone that can help them now with accounting and bookkeeping, because we can probably say that none of them really had experience with that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's theirs. They did a cleanup at the focal point, as well as assisting with the planting of flowers at the focal point. There were 2 projects worked for the quarter. One was on Main Drive, 20 volunteer hours with dumpsters. The other was on North Wickiup Road with 5 volunteers. Waste transport assistance was given and performed during Make a Difference Day. And again, the focal point and the memorial brick revitalization. And there were 417 volunteers and hours put in for Q2.
Okay.
The Boys and Girls Club, I think they are my last to report on. The Boys and Girls Club, and I was looking back at a couple of years out of everything that they have done or what they offer. They have, in Q1, this is an unduplicated number, which is 154 children that they were seeing that are Apache Junction residents. The number of daily visits to the club is 4,538. Number of volunteer hours is 144, and they were open 61 days during Q1. So the programs that they offer are Power Hour, Smart Moves, there's a mediation art, academic game board creation. They have a myfuture.net, Torch Club, and We Deliver, and I'll cover those in a moment. In Q2, they saw an increase up to 163 unduplicated kids that are Apache Junction residents. They verify residency by address. They send us a list. And I don't share that list is because it has names on it.
Fair enough.
But it does have addresses, and we verify those. The number of visits to the club was over 5,778. Volunteer hours, I'm going to check on this with them. It said 42 hours, and they were open 118 days. So the Power Hour program is a program that helps the kids with their homework if they have homework and they're not going to get it done at home. So there are people there that help the kids with that. There is mediational art. It allows members the opportunity to clear their mind of everything except the form they are using in an effort to enter into a mediative flow. Interesting. Sounds like not quite yoga. What am I thinking of? There's yoga and Pilates. I guess maybe more yoga. Academic board game creation. This provides members who do not have homework the opportunity to use the skills they've learned at the Boys and Girls Club to make a board game. They create the design of their board game and develop questions. The teams rotate around the room to play their newly created board games while promoting collaboration and learning. We Deliver is an option for members who do not have homework. They learn about the Postal Service and the unique jobs within the post office. Participants apply for different positions, write letters, and learn the difference between different types of correspondence or mailings. MyFuture.net is a mobile-friendly platform with access to 185 Boys and Girls Club program activities, helping club members learn new skills, connect with their friends, earn recognition and rewards in a safe and fun online environment. Once a week, Torch Club members gather and discuss ways that they can serve either the community or within the club. And then there are teens that are enrolled in career launch programs. They continue to increase skills in preparation to enter the workforce. Additionally, they are attending their Money Matters program to set goals, set a budget, learn how to save, and learn how to invest. There was also a program that required them to read a book a month. That was on one of the previous fundings that they had. It was a Dolly Parton thing where they were donated a book, and every month they got a new book. That was interesting to read.
Yeah, that's a nice feature. The interesting part, though, is that their census has fallen by half. As I recall, when we last looked at them, they said they had a population of 300, and to have 151 and 153 is essentially half of that.
That is an unduplicated number, so I could double check that with them, but I don't see their numbers falling.
All right.
I would see their numbers increasing only because we have such new growth and new homes and new people moving in.
And do you know in their proposal, because they pointed out two things that I thought were really critical. One was they talked about adverse child experiences. But to be really candid, I felt that was filler because they had no program to address that. And that's a real critical issue for success and whether or not people drop out of school, become involved in all sorts of dissocial behavior, et cetera, substance use. The other was I asked them to give me some data on groups, i.e. those individuals from 15 to 18 because they go from 5 to 18, to see whether or not they had matriculated and graduated from high school, and they even had aspirations of military involvement, et cetera. But they didn't provide those pieces of information.
Did she respond that she would be unable because their software wouldn't allow them to track, because you'd have to track by name?
Oh,
If you wanted to follow that group, it wouldn't be by age, it would be by an individual's name, and they couldn't track that way. Because I remember you asking that question, which was very interesting. Would be nice to see how many stay and how many graduate and how many move to, say, serving in the military. But they would have to track it by name, and I thought she said they couldn't do that. But
and again, it sort of parallels the concept that was broached earlier of seeing what the end benefits are to the interventions. And that way, I mean, I'm not trying to be overly pedantic with them, but it would be nice to see that. When I tried to look up the data on high school graduation for Pinell County, it was kind of interesting. I think it said 79%. That's not very good. And I don't know exactly what it is in Apache Junction, but since we're part of Pinell County, I'm going to believe it's probably parallel. And, you know, clearly I have a bias about education. I believe that if you can get educated, you have greater options than if you don't. That doesn't mean that all education is exactly a wise choice. There are certain choices people make that don't seem to be really in their best interest. But at any rate, that would be pertinent. The other thing that wasn't mentioned, and unless my memory is faulty on this, the Independent recorded that they made $175,000 in a gala event.
yes.
Did they acknowledge that in their application?
So they do that every year.
Okay.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, I do recall it in their application. As you'll see the applications tonight, when I looked at her application, it was like they were asking for $360,000. But what they did was they listed their budget, and then they said what percentage of it, and then what percentage of your entire budget is represented here, and it's less than 1%. So they were, while they listed $300,000 and some, they're only asking for like $8,000.
Okay.
But I want to clarify that with them, because I'm finding that people are interpreting the questions differently.
Correct.
So that's why, like on the spreadsheet tonight, when I show you, there's some question marks as to what they're really asking for, because I'm having to call them and confirm, this is your budget, what are you really asking for? So they detailed everything,
Okay.
and I thought they were asking for $360,000, but they're asking for like 11% of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't remember them really acknowledging, because they're a subsidiary of a national organization. Do they get subsidized by the National Boys and Girls Club?
They do not. So last year I checked with them and I checked with the food bank, because those are our largest ones. And I asked them if they get to feed into the pot of the larger organization. Those two specifically, the food bank and the Boys and Girls Club, and she said no. And I know that they do that gala event every year, and it's a good fundraiser for them. How that impacts their budget for year to year, they use it all.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
You bet. Does anyone else have any questions so far? Okay. So the only thing that I had left on here was, as I was reading through some of the historical notes again, because I have to do it every year to refresh my memory, is that one of the biggest goals was to bring healthcare out here to AJ, because they didn't have a hospital, they didn't have senior healthcare, they didn't have transportation, so they kind of amended the duties of the commission over time, but some of it is still old. Most of it was it used to assist with utility deposits. So as I was reading, it was a direct benefit to the residents when they had to make a deposit on their utilities, SRP or their water or whatever it might have been. There was an organization that would assist with that, and it was CARA, Community Action Human Resource Agency. So I looked them up. They're still in existence, and they're here in Pinell County. and they provide a tremendous amount of services.
Oh,
They're a private nonprofit. I don't know why they haven't applied with us since the 80s, but their webpage is phenomenal as to the services they provide. They provide emergency mental health services, psychiatric services for the seriously mentally ill. And this was Superstition Mountain Mental Health did this as well. So they also identify root causes of financial difficulties, develop a case management plan that includes objectives to help a household develop the needed skills, resolve the financial shortfall using funding to assist with utilities. Other financial assistance may be offered. So it was just a very interesting read on that. So I am going to close these reports down because these were Q1 and Q2 reports and where they spent their money. If you are looking to get to sleep, that might be some good reading for you. If we can roll to the application submitting for 24-25, I'm really not going to go through those a whole lot. We have been through them. We have asked a few more questions. We have a few new applicants. Bigger Than Us is a nonprofit organization. It is by 2 retired police officers from Washington State. They live here in AJ. I met them because they assisted HAPD with their cadet program and giving them some real-life situational scenarios that they had to act out. And then one of the officers came over and said, how can we help them? I said, well, we have this, but I think you also have a budget, so they can apply. So they applied. Superstition Food Bank, a new leaf. They're back. They were CAFA. Our contract is non-transferable. So when CAFA finally transitioned out into a new leaf, they've reapplied. Begin Again Homes. This is the new application that Mr. Mitchell was talking about. He is the Chief Financial Officer for this organization. Again, Horizon Health and Wellness, Boys and Girls Club. And then what I wanted to get into was, let me show you the table. So this comparison table shows you from fiscal year 2012-13 all the way up to next year. But what it does is it kind of shows you who has applied for funding in the past and then what they received. So the top number is what they've asked for. The bottom number is what they were awarded. And for 24-25, I had to call the food bank to confirm with them. So I'm still making phone calls to confirm with what people are asking. Like I said, Boys and Girls Club showed 360-some thousand, but when you do the numbers, they're only asking for like 8,000, around 9. CAFA is only asking for 7. Horizon Health and Wellness was asking for 3228, and that was a refrigerator and something else. Shelving, thank you. AJCDC, they're going to have to explain what they're looking for 11 grand.
Yeah, it's almost double what they normally ask for.
Yeah, they normally only ask for about 6 or 7, right there. Bigger Than Us, again, we had some difficulty in printing their applications. It came in pieces, so we're reaching out to them and asking them to provide more information. But all of these applications were received by January 31st, and that is the requirement. And so if there's more documentation that we are looking for, we double-checked a 501c3 number, and it came back belonging to a different organization, but I think it's because it's under the umbrella of like the Catholic Church.
Oh,
Begin Again Homes. Genesis did not apply this year. Other Side Ministries did not apply this year. And of course, Salvation Army hasn't applied in a couple of years. And so I just kind of, those that haven't applied or the old ones that we haven't seen since before my time here, I just moved them to the bottom.
So is there a reason why those 3 entities did not reapply? It seems that they have real needs, especially outside Ministries.
I am privy to some other information that I can't disclose.
Okay.
I don't know if that's why they didn't apply, but it might be part of the reason why they didn't apply.
Okay. All right.
So that's the funding comparison table over the years to the organizations. And then the goal is, oh, I just lost it, didn't I? Is with the scoring rubric, this is to help you as you go through their application. And the questions that you're looking for are, you know, did they present what they view as a problem quantifiably to you? So the point system goes across, and as each entity is down here on the left, and I've tried to fill in what they're looking for. A new leaf was emergency shelter, hotel stays, transportation, emergency essentials, and emergency food. So again,
But, I'm sorry,
Yep.
but that was initially for domestic violence
this
survivors, right?
this-
And
this-
it still is?
it still is.
Okay.
It's domestic violence, sexual violence,
Right.
and in their application they do cover all of that. So yes. So what happens is we don't keep our AJ domestic violence or sexual violent persons here, sexually assaulted. We'll transfer them out of the city. So Mesa picks them up, or Tempe, or Chandler picks them up for us. So we take in there. So that way, you know, if somebody's
Right.
looking for them, they're not going to be looking here. So this is what they're asking for. The CDC had just various projects, the equipment, and MAD. So I'm not too sure what they do with mothers. I think this is Mothers Against Drunk Drivers.
Right.
But again, in March, when you interview all of them, again, all your questions, just write them all down and ask away when they get here. Superstition Food Bank. Now, Evie and I have talked about this, and we've read somewhere, since I've been here for 5 years, that funding is usually not supposed to be what's the word I'm looking for? Perpetuous? What's the word I'm looking for? It's not just supposed to continue on with the same project. However, there are certain things that this is just what they do and what they provide.
Right, right.
You know,
It's a
people
perpetual
need
problem.
food.
Right.
Right. People of domestic violence need shelter. They need some place to go. So while it's meant to give you a foot, you know, to get your business going or get your services going, it was not meant to be a perpetual thing. But again, not enough money, too many people needing help. So Food Bank is just for food. Bigger Than Us, they deal with a lot of things when you read their application. They deal with suicide prevention. They handle the youth, they help PD with the youth cadet program. They are huge on mental health awareness and wellness. And they deal with all public safety and nursing staff. Go ahead.
And I'm hoping they're going to address the issues of what's called, now I'm blocking it, it's a combination of fentanyl and a sedative, xylene. And it's a very complicated medication combination to address, because using naloxone works for the fentanyl, but the xylene has a different mechanism. And my speculation is, since it's a tranquilizer, that probably hits GABA receptors, and they haven't brought up using flumazenil to intervene with that. But nonetheless, there have been some pretty outrageous outcomes. The lethality is even greater than with fentanyl per se, and the disfigurement is another issue. It isn't quite as bad as the stuff that used to be called crocodile, where they'd make the injections and then their skin would become mutated at sites of injection, and it had that appearance. It got a greenish color, and it looked like the skin of a crocodile. But this seems to have the attribute of not only causing disfigurement, but potentially sepsis and amputation as a consequence of its use. And it's called TANQ, T-A-N-Q. That's its street name.
Wow.
Do you,
I couldn't even address anything on that. It's a whole different world for me. I don't even know the language.
did they say how they were funding their national speaker that was coming in to do presentations?
Is this for Bigger Than Us?
Yeah.
I didn't know that they
They had this Marco, some guy that comes in and does inspirational type discussions or suicide prevention with youth, and I thought they had gone to like 7 schools and had done that presentation with
I
Mark,
did
that he was a
s-
wrestler at one time.
Yes, yeah.
I was
They
curious how they
did.
paid for it or how they
I
got
don't
him.
think they paid for it. I think they knew somebody that knew
Ah.
somebody and got lucky.
Okay.
These guys are very creative.
And it sounds like there's only 2 of them, right? So they don't have a pool of resources, or do they?
I only met 2 of them. It's just the 2 of them that are in that business, but they've been doing this for a while. So up in Seattle, they're in the south of Seattle area, but they're both retired. But they started this up there, and they're continuing the work down here. But they have a connection, of a network
They
connection,
must,
like you wouldn't
yeah.
believe. I find that police officers have that. They know people they're in another state, and they'll be filling up with gas, and they'll turn around and say, "Hey, so and so." They'll turn around like, "How do you know me?" Yeah, they have a good connection. So, very interesting gentlemen. But they're huge on helping those firefighters, police, and those in that treat patients. So nursing staff, hospital staff, first responders. They're all about mental health for them and helping veterans and retired everybody in that group. Begin Again Homes. That is Jeff Mitchell and Cheryl Bigelow and some others. And they are looking to open up, start their business. They're looking for funding to help with salaries, operations, licensing, business fees, administration, and marketing programs. It has been mentioned to me that these can be funded by other entities, and that the money from AJ should still be a direct service to residents.
Fair enough.
I've heard the opposite side too of, if they don't have this, how are they going to have a roof over their heads to provide these services? So
So Begin Again Homes, does that imply that they're looking at whether or not they might be able to cajole Bill Gates or somebody else into providing tiny homes to deal with the homeless? And do we have a provision by the council to have land allocated for such an adventure?
to the second part of that question, council has not discussed that at all,
Okay.
because when you talk about affordable housing, it's affordable to whom? And then you're dealing with free enterprise. You can't tell a developer that he can only build a 1,000 square foot house and he can only sell it for $200,000. And again, that might not be affordable to somebody.
Right.
So,
I was just wondering
yeah.
whether or not there'd be something in parallel to what Arnold Schwarzenegger did in Los Angeles, where he donated 2,500 tiny homes to the homeless.
Wow.
And
Oh, I heard about that.
yeah, and so, I mean, I don't know whether or not anybody's going to be that philanthropic or not, but at least it's worth exploring, and maybe I can talk to Jeff a little to see if
Have you heard of
that's-
the continuation of that story about the donated tiny homes?
You know, I think they've had some success, but I haven't seen, they have certain requirements. If somebody has a substance problem, they have to be involved in a rehabilitation program and some other things. I'm hoping that now that we have an educator on this commission, that we'll talk about dealing with remediation of those individuals that dropped out of high school and need a GED or some other format of education to move forward. And those things can be there. But basic sort of housing is really important and has a real benefit to those individuals and the community. And you see places like Oregon, which have dealt with a subsistence salary. They give them, I think it's $1,500 that they can use to be able to, purchase resources and do things. And what they found, at least what I've read thus far, is that no one's used it for substance use or other things. They really do use it for its intended purpose. And that's been, beneficial. I don't know how much longer that sort of revenue is going to be available. I mean, there are all sorts of contingencies that aren't there. But nonetheless, last I looked, Apache Junction has reportedly 100 individuals plus that are homeless. We probably have more, but we have at least that many. And I, I don't know how they're interrelated at all, but it may be beneficial to look at what sort of dwellings can be there that will meet needs, some have communal kitchens where they deal with that, and communal shower areas where those are available, so that the dwelling itself essentially is sort of a studio apartment. It's very contained, probably less than 200 square feet. But enough of my diatribe.
I know that Mary Erickson, who used to sit on this commission as well, had years ago mentioned a program of finding someone to, can you go close that door? Find a roommate. And she had mentioned a software program that matches compatibilities between a senior living alone and somebody's needing a house.
Right.
But again, that never went anywhere.
That's too bad.
Yeah, so I don't know who would take that on, and I don't know, how much that would cost, but it was another option.
Fair enough.
Begin Again Homes is more, as kind of I read it as part of a Genesis and a New Leaf. I was going to say CAFA, is a crossover between Genesis and a New Leaf. Okay. So paying for hotel rooms for individuals that just are homeless, that don't, need a night or two. I just didn't. So they'll present to you in March. And then Horizon was just mentioning their food pantry and just needed a freezer and shelving.
Right. Okay.
Let me.
All right. So.
So I might be missing another applicant. And that was the one where their federal EIN didn't match up.
Oh.
It was a church,
Uh-huh.
but I'm thinking it's falling under a parent church.
Okay.
We reached out to them to ask them for a new, because the 501c3 letter was from 79.
Well,
So also in either our application or somewhere we saw that, a new letter from the IRS is like every 5 years. So we've read things over the years. We're just trying to figure out where we read it tied to this. So there might be one more application. It's a church. If I find them and figure out what I did with them, basically they were wanting a refurb of the building. So I didn't see any services. They just wanted to repaint and redo some walls and add some shelving, and it didn't. I didn't see a correlation.
yeah, refurbish, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
My apologies if they're not here. I will find that before the next meeting and send you all an email. So I thought I was one more. So as you go through their applications, what you're looking for is just identifying the problem. What is their proposal? What's the financial review of them? And then you may not be able to answer some of these, and you might be able to better answer them after you interview. But this scoring rubric will help you determine, once that's done, when you start divvying up the money. And so what we have is in April is it's a spreadsheet, and basically you just start plugging in numbers, and it'll either add or subtract as you go through your funding, so that by the end you've allocated all your money, or you don't have to allocate all of the money, but you all get to discuss why you chose $30,000 for this and why you chose $3,000 for this. You all get to plead your case, just like the nonprofits did. So, and you may not agree. There's been some, like, no, I don't like them, or I don't feel that their need is there. So, but that's what this commission is to do. I'm wondering, Evie, what else do I have? So all of that, and then just the duties of the commission. I think you've all seen the city code. And like I mentioned, part of the city code is old. When it was originally formed, Like I said, there weren't hospitals out here. We didn't have transportation. We didn't have an urgent care. We didn't have doctors. So they were looking to bring those out here. They formed committees and commissions to see what would best serve the community. The duties, which we may look at this year and reassign, depending on what you may want to suggest to council, what we look at. Do we start looking at organizations that start helping our youth and giving them a career path? I've been to the high school. I've seen what the school resource officers put up with on a daily basis. It is nothing compared to what it was when I went to high school. I think I must have lived in Barbie land because high school was so great. And what these kids put up with and what they go through and their home life is just horrible. You know, girls that barely weigh 10 pounds are calling each other fat, and then they're fighting over it. So it is nothing like what it was when I went to school. Whether we look at organizations that start at the grade school level, getting them introduced to different occupations, maybe having different community organizations go in and talk about nursing and talking about dentistry or talking about police or fire or things that we don't know that are there, or technology things. Just opening up their minds to what is a possibility out there. Maybe start early, find out what they like, where their interest is, and kind of, you know, if they're interested, keep getting them down that pathway. I think one of the biggest things was the senior community out here, because we're used to be a larger senior community, and that was in A, to conduct public hearings to determine the needs of city residents with regards to public health needs, which we still have that issue, care of the elderly. Most of this has gone over to our Parks and Rec because back in the day, we had an agreement with Mesa, who used to do transportation, and then like Meals on Wheels and senior services. And most of that now is over in Park and Rec. And Pinal County, they partner with Pinal County on that. So there's quite a substantial budget in just their budget line item for those services. And I can ask Liz to come present to you in March what all is done over there so that you understand that there's more than 80,000. There's at least maybe another 30 or 40,000 that is contributed to this pot to help our senior community, to help those that are disabled or handicapped, and that those that might be developmentally disabled, because that was their goal. To enhance the development of public health through public forums, seminars, and work with other agencies. So we do have wellness events throughout the city, and the nonprofits they do partner with other nonprofits speaking on these matters. C was to review requests submitted by the health and human service providers, which is what you've got, for city funding and make recommendations to council. And then to assist in the development of healthcare facilities. So D and E is where you really see how old this is. To make recommendations to the county or to the council regarding elderly healthcare and emergency transportation programs. So again, I can have Liz address emergency transportation programs because I'm not too sure we have that quite in place. But again, you know, when you talk about our elderly, but you also need to start thinking things are very different, and our youth are now suffering health conditions.
Absolutely.
So this is a very broad spectrum. Other than that, like I said, if you want to start looking at these items, A through E, and say, you know, maybe we should start thinking about what this commission does, or how we want our organizations in this community to help us. You know, what are they doing? Because I'm sure everybody's doing something, but how do we maximize that benefit that they're doing?
How do we get them to coordinate and collaborate?
And it's a huge effort. It's a huge effort.
Jennifer, do you know what our pool of money is this year?
I know that, I think I can say this, I think the city manager's office and council, they're putting in 90.
Yeah. That's impressive because
What was
there's
it
been
last
some
year?
concern. It was 80.
It's been
But
80.
There was some concern that because of certain legislative changes, about rental things and stuff like that, and the fee that was going to the local community on it.
Yeah.
That was now gone, and several municipalities had complained that was really not fair of the legislature to do that.
Yep, the state's losing billions of dollars, and when I say billions, it's billions, because when you talk about state shared revenue, what comes back to the city, I think we're losing 1.2 million,
Oh my goodness, see.
1.2 or 1.9 million. So we're losing a significant chunk of change. You know, and as a city, to me, a city's good thing to do is to buy land so you can control your development. You know, the city is just purchasing some land, and that's the first they've been able to do in a long, long time. So, yes, there are significant budget restrictions that we'll be seeing in the near future.
You know, a tangent, and I'm sorry, I don't know if this is exactly the forum, but Arizona law had required that if you have a single home development, the builder of that has to guarantee that you have a 100-year access
Water.
to water. That isn't the case with these places that are going up that are for rent.
Nope.
No. I don't know if they did away with that. But if you come to our water meetings, which is on a Tuesday night with council, right before council, Mr. Loggins talks about our water resources and what we're doing to increase our water resources. It's an interesting discussion. And what they're doing with Salt River and what they're doing with water reclamation, it's huge.
My understanding is they still haven't closed that loophole yet
Is that they're still requiring the 100-year?
for the renters.
Oh,
yeah.
If you build a housing area and you're renting them instead of selling them,
selling 'em.
you're exempt from that 100-year requirement.
Right.
That's in an area I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I would have assumed it wouldn't matter whether you rent or whether you purchase.
Now,
because-
I've talked to several of the city council people who were amazed when they found that out too, that is in a state statute. The realtor's got a hold of that somewhere along the line.
Sure.
There's a carve out there.
Figures.
Well, we're gonna
But,
have 3 lakes down Ironwood, so it'll be fine.
Oh, don't you love it? Yeah, I mean,
At
Yeah.
the last water meeting, which was last Tuesday night, Mr. Loggins did report that it's and I found this super interesting, is that residential construction, rental or purchasing, uses less water than ag land.
oh,
So
that's
even though we're seeing a decrease in ag land and we're seeing more and more homes pop up, the water usage decreases significantly because of the construction and people moving in than what agriculture used.
But that's a byproduct of the crops that they grow. So cotton is remarkably thirsty.
So are oranges.
Yeah, so are oranges, so are pecans.
Yeah, yeah.
And so there are numerous crops that we have here that really are very difficult to think about relative to this environment. And so, you know, there was an article long ago, and I'll be brief, I promise, that dealt with a man who regained some property that his grandfather had in the Yuma area. And he decided to convert everything to native sort of fauna.
Oh.
And so he's growing some things that are like a wheat product or maybe a substitute that takes about 1/10 of the water that wheat does, and has demonstrated it's a process, and it takes a transition in time, but it's proving to be remarkably beneficial, both to the environment, but as well relative to its water needs and other things. And you know, Commissioner Danforth is right that it almost seems that this is a mechanism to circumvent that requirement, because you'll see places that were abandoned during the COVID time, and now all of a sudden they're being completed, but instead of being sold, they're being leased, and that circumvents that need for that sort of certification.
I think you'll also see in the papers or articles more and more larger organizations are basically they're the developer, and they're getting partners, and they will develop land, but they do not sell.
Oh,
You're
so-
right, they lease.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
so-
one of the issue I picked up on was in building like a housing development, and they're not selling them, they're leasing them.
Leasing them,
And
renting,
that,
yeah.
my understanding is still, they're not beholden to that 100-year requirement.
But, you know, one last tangent, but related. There was an effort for a while to look at incorporating gray water retrieval in construction. And it seems that if you do it at the front end, that would be remarkably beneficial. You take water from doing your laundry, your dishwasher, the shower, the sink, not the toilet, that's black water, but everything else, and you try and recycle it and use it for those things that you may do with watering plants on your property, etc. And is the council thinking about proposing that maybe that would be a good measure to deal with water resources?
They are discussing that.
Okay, good.
Yep. My community, all of my parks, and all of the street trees, everything is with reclaimed water. So you'll see the different color of pipe if an erosion occurs. And, you know, they tell you when you move in, you don't be running through the sprinklers, you know, in the park. So that's how come they go off at night,
Right.
is it's reclaimed water. But, you know,
You
so.
know, when I went to U of A Med School,
alternatives.
Randolph Park was the first park I'd ever encountered, and that was entirely done with reclaimed water.
So, yep, it's coming. We're coming. Yep.
Yeah, but
So, water
that's late 70s.
utilities, CFD, is Tuesday nights. I don't want to say this. The first and third, so the third Tuesday of the month, when we have city council meetings, WUCFUD starts at 6. And if you're interested, you can just even watch that online. But Mr. Loggins talks about reclaimed water, what they're doing. There's actually a business up in Scottsdale, I think, that produces a beer that uses reclaimed water.
Yeah, I saw that recently.
So,
I read a gardening, I belong to some gardening pages.
okay.
And on one of the pages today, there was an article about how, you know how you warm your shower up, you warm your water up
Mm-hmm.
before you get in it? They're putting buckets underneath that and saving that water. So after you take your shower, you've got water your plants with it.
Good move.
Water recirculating.
I live in a
works just
two-story
as well.
house. I'm not dragging that water down.
Water recirculator works just well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't wanna
exactly.
have to haul a bucket.
I
Is there
just,
any other questions?
yes,
from-
just one thing. I was thinking regarding back to the duties.
Yes.
Maybe we could get some input before our last meeting as we think about it, from maybe the police, maybe the schools on so we can kind of narrow down, because it's such a broad spectrum, but what are the biggest obstacles right now for student success in AJ? What are the biggest health problems? And then we can kind of think about that,
Okay.
something like that. I
Good
know
point.
each district's a little bit different, yet a lot of similarities too.
Good. Nice suggestion.
Okay.
Okay.
So the next meeting that I have is March 25th at 5 o'clock.
Right.
If you are not able to access the applications, and like I said, if I'm missing one more, I'll send that out to you. Use the rubric, and then just make sure that you feel that their services provide the need that they say they're providing.
And this is us, right? Like, the one on
Yep.
So okay.
Yep. This is it for the next couple of months.
Okay.
Like 5. Okay. All right, so anybody, by the way, because we really ought to discuss this, I have no problem with 5 o'clock. Do any of you have a problem with it being at 5 o'clock versus at maybe a little later time? That would extend it, and I like 5.
5 is good.
Okay, is that okay with everybody? Okay.
Okay.
All right. So with that in mind, I get to say, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
So the motion to adjourn the meeting has been made and seconded. Can we do, instead of roll call, can we just do a voice vote?
Hold on
okay.
a moment. We're having the discussion over here. She asked if I needed a motion on the next meeting date, and I really don't, because you are scheduled, well, you're not scheduled. You're tentatively scheduled for the fourth Monday of every month. It has to do with open meeting law, which I think Joel has already covered with our new commissioners. But it's announced tonight. The next meeting is March 25th, and we're okay with that.
Okay.
So, all right, so on the motion to adjourn, you sure you want to do this? All right, Commissioner Mahler,
Yes.
Commissioner Danford, Vice Chair, sorry, Commissioner Vozine,
Yes.
Commissioner Smithson,
Yes.
Chair Brennan.
Yes.
All right, meeting adjourned.